And I think maybe Carol talked so much about it when she went out and took care of
that was wonderful.
she loved doing it.
Those were nice visits, actually. Yeah. Definitely shared that and chocolate.
This is a friend of Wyndham's. I'm entering to represent Ackley. Come on in, they were locking the door.
That's not bad.
Taking care of my mom and go over it. There's no stopping it. Driving one more.
They're calling the group in. That's my hero. This is their end.
So if I'm giving you a very side hug, the only reason why
Diane.
I just like have a certain
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to it.
Did you come with my parents? Did you come with my parents? It's okay. Cheryl. Oh, we're older. Your mom says that's why you have a child. I think it's I can't go back to work,
Dear friends, we gather this morning to remember and to celebrate the life of one who filled our world with her love, her goodness, her extraordinary spirit, and outstanding example. In humility and gratitude, we turn to the wisdom of our tradition for comfort, for guidance, and for understanding. Throughout the centuries, whenever our people felt lost, confused, unmoored, grieving, they would turn to the wisdom of the Psalms and the comfort of the Psalms for guidance and for consolation. One of the favorites was Psalm 121. Asa'inai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, creator of heaven and of earth. Asa'inai el heharim, me'ayin Yavo Ezri, Esainai, El Harim, Me'ayin, Yavo Ezri, Me'im Adonai, Osei Shamayim Varetz, Ezri Me'im Adonai, Osei Shamayim v'aretz esainai harim me'ayin yavo ezri. O God, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, "Return, O mortal creatures." Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright. They shall have peace. For those of you for whom the 23rd Psalm is familiar, I invite you to join with me in its recitation. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. When I die, remember me with a smile and laughter. If thoughts of me provoke no love, only sadness and tears, I ask that I be soon forgotten. Give what's left of me away to children and old ones who wait to die. And if you must cry, cry for your brother or sister who walks in grief beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved or helped in some special way. And if you cannot give me away, let me live in your eyes for a while as well as in your mind. You can love me most by letting love live within the circle of your arms, embracing the frightened ones. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. My dear Cynthia and David, dear Rob and Susan, dear family, dear friends, dear all those who are joining us from afar through the miracle, the modern miracle of live streaming. Saturday evening, as I spoke with Carol Goddess's loved ones, as memories and anecdotes overflowed, filled with love and gratitude, with tears of loss and smiles of recognition, As those who were gathered recounted her prodigious intellect, her creativity and artistry, her curiosity and sense of adventure, her intrepid nature and passionate interests, I kept thinking of a blessing recorded in the Talmud that was first offered as a benediction for one of our sages, Rav Ami. The reference to Torah in the very first verse was literally intended 1,500 years ago. I read the word Torah, however, somewhat metaphorically, as representing the vast opportunities for knowledge and learning in God's world. May your eyes sparkle with the light of Torah, and your ears hear the music of its words. May the space between each letter of the scrolls bring warmth and comfort to your soul. May the syllables draw holiness from your heart, and may this holiness be gentle and soothing to the world. May your study be passionate, and meanings bear more meanings until life itself arrays itself to you as a dazzling wedding feast. And may your conversation, even of the commonplace, be a blessing to all who listen to your words and see the Torah glowing on your face. It is irrelevant whether anyone ever offered this blessing on Carol's behalf. They didn't have to. She embodied its every word. From her earliest years, she demonstrated a passion for learning and discovery. It surprised no one that she graduated from Cleveland Heights High as the valedictorian of her class, or was elected to the Phi Beta Kappa Society as a 19-year-old pregnant graduate of Oberlin College. What may have been a surprise, a mystery even, was how her positive, constructive, productive nature emerged and transcended her earliest experiences. Both of Carol's parents, Saul and Eva Bloomberg, were born in this country. However, when Saul was 8 years old, his mother died, giving birth to her 12th child. An aunt stepped in briefly to help the bereft household, but she had to go back to Eastern Europe, from which the family had emigrated in a previous generation. In order to help her brother with the overwhelming responsibility of the family, she decided to ease things a bit by taking one of the children with her. That child was Saul. At 8 years old, he had lost his mother and now lost his family, his home, and his country. He knew not a word of Ukrainian or Russian and did not understand the whole new world in which he found himself. When he turned 16, he figured out how to get back to the United States, but he arrived as a greenhorn who didn't remember any English and embarrassed his family, where he found his siblings preparing to be or embarked upon careers as doctors, engineers, and professionals. Saul was apprenticed to a watch repairman and eventually opened a watch repair shop in the Terminal Tower. He was well respected for his skill and had clients with very fancy watches, but he was an angry and bitter man for all the pain and dislocation that his life had brought him. Carol rarely spoke of her years growing up, but the family understood that both she and elder brother Sheldon knew the terror of their father's erupting anger. Carol found solace and comfort in her studies, in music and artistic endeavor, in physical activity, in gardening, in gourmet cooking based upon nutritional eating ahead of her time, in reading, teaching, traveling, discovering, creating innovations to help others. She fashioned a tremendously varied and multifaceted life, and we might wonder if her constant drive and intensity might have been survival mechanisms for safely dealing with the uncertainty and sadness of her father's struggles. May your study be passionate, and meanings bear more meanings until life itself arrays itself to you as a dazzling wedding feast. Carol not only loved to learn and was an avid reader her whole life, she loved to teach in the classroom, at the Cleveland Museum of Art, at conferences and seminars, at home with her family, her children, her grandchildren, while cooking or gardening or traveling. She graduated from Oberlin with a bachelor's degree in kindergarten primary education. When she and Ron were first married and living in Lorraine, she taught children with cerebral palsy until Lauren started imitating the behavior of her students. May the space between each letter bring warmth and comfort to the soul. May the syllables draw holiness from your heart, and may this holiness be gentle and soothing to the world. Carol was an exceedingly creative and innovative teacher who cared deeply for her students and tried constantly to improve their success in learning. She taught kindergarten in Cleveland's inner city for 25 years, and from the outset sought to mainstream as many of her young charges as possible. To that end, she created kids' love notes that went home with the students, indicating how well they had done that day so that they might receive further encouragement and support at home. She knew, long before more detailed studies would support her beliefs, that a partnership between home and school was one of the strongest pillars and predictors of a successful education. Her love notes were intended to help guide the parents in raising successful learners. After she and Ron retired, they created a small business to market and sell kids' love notes. It allowed them to travel the country and to keep up with current educational trends and innovations. May your study be passionate, and meanings bear more meanings until life itself arrays itself to you as a dazzling wedding feast. When Ron came home with the opportunity to spend 2 years in Ethiopia, thanks to a contract with the United States Agency for International Development, there was no question in Carol's mind that this was the opportunity of a lifetime. Her children were young. It would be an upheaval for all of them, and especially Lauren, who did not want to go in the worst way. But Carol understood how much the exposure to a completely different culture, country, cuisine, and details of everyday living could mean. It promised a dazzling feast of learning and experience, irresistible forces for Carol. They packed up the house and off they went on the adventure that in many ways defined their family and certainly their mother's extraordinary character. Once settled on the agricultural campus of what was then the Haile Selassie University, now known as Addis Ababa University in Alamaya, Ethiopia. Correct me if I'm getting that wrong, please. Carol set to work teaching kindergarten and first grade at the campus school for faculty and staff children, while Ron, as project manager, directed the construction of a classroom building and dormitory. As the family described, they all, including Lauren, who was never going to set foot in Ethiopia and had to do her schooling via correspondence, they all explored Ethiopia and Kenya and developed a robust community of friends among the university's Ethiopian and international faculty, staff, and students. It was a great chapter in the story of their family, of which there were many. May your eyes sparkle with the light of artistic pursuit, and your ears hear the music of the heavenly spheres. Carol was a gifted artist with an eye for design, for spatial arrangement, and for beauty. She seemed to arrange a vase of flowers with minimal effort and maximum impact. Her garden was exquisitely laid out, as was her table, and she was an accomplished painter in watercolor. Her paintings are among the most prized possessions of her family members and loved ones. And if I am not mistaken, some of them will be displayed this afternoon at Congregation Mishkan Or, where the family will be gathering after the cemetery to receive visitors. Upon their return from Ethiopia, Carol earned a master's degree in early childhood education at Cleveland State University and taught in the Cleveland City school system. She became quite involved and skilled in assessment and remediation for at-risk kindergarten students. She also helped hundreds of children learn to read. When she retired, she didn't stop teaching or learning. Both she and Ron were chosen for the prestigious docent program at the Cleveland Museum of Art. She trained carefully for the program and always added her own teaching moments, insights, and observations to her guidance and presentations. Carol and Ron also did art appreciation programs for students in area schools, in which they brought objects from the museum through the innovative Art to Go initiative. It was a tailor-made program for Carol's passionate interests and outstanding abilities. She endowed it in her and Ron's name after he passed away to be sure that underfunded schools would not be deprived of the cultural enrichment that can make such a difference in so many students' lives. She also founded a program at the museum whereby caregivers were encouraged to bring their patients with Alzheimer's as a way to access those parts of the brain that respond to nonverbal stimuli. She never stopped teaching, never stopped trying to improve the lives of others, never stopped believing that each of us can make a difference, which she did every day of her life. She worked with a group of Jewish women volunteers to write, edit, and perform scripts about the history and culture of Israel for schools and community groups. The endeavor sought to promote positive discussion and interaction, focusing on the lives of Israel's Arab and Jewish population, and how closely they are intertwined. May your conversation, even of the commonplace, be a blessing to all who listen to your words and see wisdom glowing on your face. When Carol was first married and a student at Oberlin, she went to the financial aid office to apply for assistance. She was told that as a married woman, she was her husband's responsibility and therefore not eligible for aid from the school. This was in 1957. In later years, she and Ron established an endowed scholarship, the Carol Class of 57 and Ronald Goddess Scholarship, to benefit and encourage women students. She loved music and the theater. She played piano. She and Ron had subscription seats to Severance. She volunteered in the gift shop, and she and Ron were ushers at the Cleveland Playhouse. She was ahead of her time in her interest in and desire to support underserved, vulnerable, and at-risk populations. She also cared about fitness and nutrition before they became fads. And she loved chocolate, clearly for its nutritional value. She was always working out, going to the JCC, going for a hike, going for a walk, going for a swim, especially with dear, dear friend, second mother to Cynthia, Ellen Aiello, with whom Carol would swim first thing in the morning around the Canadian island where Ellen and Fred had their cottage and Carol and Ron came to visit every summer. The two women loved those early mornings and their return to the cottage for a hot cup of coffee after the cold swim to warm up their hands as well as their insides, and a warm, loving chat to warm up their souls. It was a long and deep friendship. They had connected easily when they met in the 1970s and remained the dearest of friends with their shared values, their shared interests, and their shared experiences, often with their husbands, as Ron who could fix anything, was exceedingly helpful with the summer cottage. Carol was a wonderful friend who made new friends wherever she was and wherever she went, including when she moved to the D.C. area to live with Cynthia and David. She made new friends volunteering at the local elementary school and at Mount Pleasant activities such as mahjong and meditation, a practice she had learned while traveling home from Ethiopia through India, Thailand, Nepal, and Japan. The family had traveled through Europe on the way to Africa. She had lifelong friends from school days, as you will hear, and lifelong friends she met just last week. They could travel the world, but home was where Carol was. There was very little about her that was conventional, as a mother, a grandmother, a wife, an aunt, a sister, or a friend. She passionately loved her children and modeled for them an active, engaged, curious, courageous, innovative, creative, and adventurous way of being. She encouraged their interests and shared unstintingly her own. She sewed matching outfits for Cynthia and Lauren when they were growing up, and for herself. Carol was proud of her children, of Lauren's career as a corporate recruiter, of her marriage to Doug Goodman, and of their children, Eva and Eric, with Griffin Radulski. Eric had a particularly close relationship with his grandparents, which was certainly reinforced by his bar mitzvah trip to Costa Rica with his grandmother, where they hiked, went ziplining, swam, and saw the fabulous sights of our natural world. It was a most memorable trip for them both. And classic Carol. Carol was proud of Cynthia's work as a finance director and her pivot to help Rob in his energy business that will save the world. She was also delighted for Cynthia when David Blackston came into her life and embraced David's family of Maggie and Jonathan with Pearl and Flora, Melissa and her Christian, and Greg and Jenny with their Oliver and Abigail. It speaks volumes about David that he welcomed Carol into their home, his mother-in-law of about 3 years. Rob and Susan were another source of great joy in Carol's life, with their daughter Mariah and her Kelsey. As much as she loved her children, Carol adored her grandchildren and loved any news of their exploits and activities. She was a dynamic, beneficial, aspirational, and inspirational presence in all of their lives, and most especially in Ron's. May your conversation, even of the commonplace, be a blessing to all who listen to your words and see the light of love glowing on your face. They met in a dark room for a photography course they were both taking at Kent State. They emerged from that dark room into the light of their love for each other, which lasted for a far too brief 50 years. He was the love of her life, and she was his. There was something about the two of them together. They really were better together, more than the sum of their two parts. They were a matched set. They shared interests and intellectual curiosity about the world, values, aspirations, faith. They were not regular temple goers, although they were always present for the High Holy Days, but they greatly admired Rabbi Lelyveld's intellect and passion for social justice. Carol always lit the Sabbath candles and expected the entire family to sit down for a deliciously prepared Shabbat meal. Rob was the child whose religious school education resumed after their 2-year adventure in Ethiopia. He celebrated becoming a bar mitzvah, was confirmed and graduated from our religious school. Ron and Carol Goddess were active and involved members of our synagogue and community. They were present for lectures, programs, cultural events, social justice initiatives. One might describe them as true pillars of our extended community. Without fuss or fanfare, they walked the walk of their beliefs and values, and they did it hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, as friends, lovers, partners, teammates. Ron's tragic and unexpected loss in 2005 left them all reeling, but Carol carried on, bravely, taking pleasure in her grandchildren, Eva, Eric, and Mariah, their growth and their exploits. She was attentive as well to her brother Shelley, who could not be with us physically today, but whose heart mourns the loss of his younger sister. They weathered their earliest years together, and Carol rejoiced for Sheldon when he found Eileen, and when Gary, David, and Diane came into their lives with Luann, Janet, and Ron Glazer, and then their children later on. May the space between each letter bring warmth and comfort to your soul. May the syllables draw holiness from your heart, and may this holiness be gentle and soothing to the world. 7 years ago, as the strain of loss and aging were beginning to take their toll, Cynthia opened her home and her life to her mother with the invitation to Carol to come live with her and David in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood of Washington, D.C. It was another adventure for Carol. She made friends, volunteered, and adjusted as she always did. But in the last few years, she had to confront the inexorable process of aging, and for that, she needed help. Of course, she didn't think she did, and rejected out of hand any suggestion for a caregiver, until, that is, she met Amy, who came from Ethiopia and immediately established a rapport and a comfort level with Carol. Amy brought her extended family into Carol's life, including the remarkable Rachel, with great respect, love, and compassion on all sides. As Ellen expressed, Rachel, who in turn brought Nardis, Tamrat, and Kadeni. Did I do this right? Rachel, what? Thank you. Okay, thank you. They all, as Ellen said, showed us how the world ought to be. Rachel became the center of Carol's care and became a dear and precious friend, daughter, and confidant to her. She became part of Carol's family, as Carol's family was embraced by Rachel's, as we can see here today. Rachel speaks of Carol and Cynthia in particular with enormous love, care, respect, and appreciation. Cynthia, David, Rob, Susan, and the rest of the family have only superlatives to say about Rachel and her team and the profound gift they gave to Carol and their entire family in their care of her. In a very real sense, Rachel and her family's presence in Carol's life represented the completion of a full circle, a kind of coming home for Carol and for them all. May your eyes sparkle with the light of Torah, and your ears hear the music of its words. May the space between each letter of the scrolls bring warmth and comfort to your soul. May the syllables draw holiness from your heart, and may this holiness be gentle and soothing to the world. May your study be passionate, and meanings bear more meanings until life itself arrays itself to you as a dazzling wedding feast. And may your conversation, even of the commonplace, be a blessing to all who listen to your words and see the glow of wisdom on your face. Zichrona livracha. As she was blessed to fulfill the words of our sages, so may her memory rest as a continuing blessing upon us, inspiring us to be the very blessings she embodied every day of her life. And let us say, Amen. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. I call now on Cynthia and Rob and Judy, I believe, and you can determine the order in which you intend to speak.
Two of my favorite memories of my mom were from before I was 10 years old and involved traveling to and in Ethiopia. While in Greece, we were sitting on the roof of the Alkistis Hotel, watching light and fireworks show on the Parthenon, making up a song about raising chickens on the roof of the Alkistis Hotel. Some of you have probably heard it. The second one was while camping at Shiprock in Dakota Valley in Ethiopia. Some Somali nomad herdsmen had stopped at our campsite asking to borrow Ronald's 12-gauge shotgun. They were having some trouble, it seems, with a lion who had jumped over a large acacia branch fence surrounding their compound, grabbed a 20-year-old man, and jumped out with the man in his mouth. The next day, all they found was part of an arm and part of a leg. That night, we built a second fire in the middle of our campground. We were with 3 other families, and there were several kids. I remember Carol had her back to Shiprock, facing the campfire in the middle of the campground, when the lion roared so close that it shook the hair on our heads. In a single bound, Mom leapt up, easily clearing the campfire in the middle of the campground while screaming, "Children in the car! Children in the car!" and piling into our Toyota Land Cruiser. I had never seen her perform such a feat like that before or since, but she was truly an adventurous woman. The people I'd really like to thank most of all for making the last several years of Mom's life as good as they possibly could be are Cynthia and David. Cynthia found a group of amazing women from Ethiopia. First on the scene was Amy, and by virtue of the fact that she was in Ethiopia, she was the first companion Mom was willing to tolerate hanging around so much of the day. Amy is in Ethiopia right now, visiting family. She did manage to wrangle 4 close friends, also from Ethiopia, as Mom's needs increased. But Cynthia made sure that all of the caretakers were also taken care of. Without Cynthia, Carol would have had a very difficult time in the last several years of her life. Cynthia and her lovely husband, David, opened their home. Cynthia cared for her tremendously, and for that I am eternally grateful. Carol will be greatly missed by all of us, but lives on in our memories. Thank you.
You all know what a special woman Carol was. We now, Shirley and I, would like to tell you about a special and unusual friendship. It is hard to describe this relationship that Carol, Shirley, and I had all these many years since high school. Carol was always there calm, reassuring, with support when we had a family crisis, when we tried to show appreciation. She was always very gracious. We had other friends, but none can compare to our close bond, closer even than sisters. In all those many years, there wasn't anything Carol wouldn't have done for us or us for her.
Judy and I certainly miss her support and companionship, and mostly her love, her constancy, and her optimism, and her encouragement meant so much to us, so many of the years.
Goodbye, dear friend.
Carol, we miss you.
Thank you for your beautiful words. It was so lovely. Thank you.
I just want to start by thanking Cantor Sager for doing the most amazing weaving of my mom's life in a short conversation Zoom. It's just, thank you.
Thank you.
For your beautiful. Sadly, you're going to hear some of it again. So, thank you all for coming to honor my mom. Carol would be soaring with joy to see all of you here. I know she missed her Cleveland friends. Some of you were long friends, like Judy and Shirley, since kindergarten. And meaning she's known them for over 70 years. And in fact, many of her friends some of her friends are also here that she met during her active life as a docent, a teacher, a volunteer for organizations she loved, such as the Cleveland Orchestra, National Council of Jewish Women, Hello Israel, and many other organizations. I'm Carol's daughter, Cynthia. You'll recall my mom moved to Washington, D.C. in 2017 after her open heart surgery, and she moved into our home. She moved from her home that she and my dad lived in for over 50 years in Orange Village to her own beautiful, spacious apartment in our home. She enjoyed living in D.C., where she could be in our garden, walk to the National Zoo, meet all kinds of people, and be with us as her family. Of course, I have so many feelings at this moment. Big sadness, of course, but also so proud. I'm proud of my mom for being so loved, respected, and appreciated by so many people from all walks of life. Many of you have written me in the last days with lovely comments and memories of Carol, how you enjoyed her company, how she impacted you, that she was a skilled mentor for you, and other many kind words and memories. Thank you for that. I feel lucky to have had a great mom who nurtured and loved and encouraged me. She truly cared about me, and I knew it. She was a wonderful role model in a loving relationship with my dad for over 50 years, creatively engaged in so many activities, and valued and enjoyed learning. She loved art and music, made opportunities to do good in the world, was generous of spirit, and always was interested in the people that she met. Mom talked to practically anyone she encountered, engaged every waitress she ever had, people on the metro, the grocery store checkout person, the workers at our local cafe she liked to frequent. Any person she met, she was friendly, curious, and interested in them. Honestly, as a child, sometimes we were really embarrassed. Mom was smart. She valued learning and trying new things. She cared about being involved in her community and engaging in activities that fed her spirit and energized her life. Before she retired, she taught little kids for decades. You know that saying, everything you needed to know you learned in kindergarten. Mom was responsible for teaching hundreds of kids to learn to read. Mom was adventurous, jumping at the chance, as we've all mentioned, to move our young family to Ethiopia when my dad's work offered that opportunity. This decision to move to Ethiopia for 2 years was an enormous gift to me as a young teenager, enabling me to experience and see so many things that forever changed my life and how I now see and live in the world. Thank you, Mom. I'm grateful to you for that. Thank you, Mom, for so many things you did, for setting a good example of how to make a life well lived. I'm grateful for that. I feel fortunate. Mom spent the last 7 years with my husband David and me in our Washington, D.C. home. Well, it certainly was not always easy, as she moved in with us when we were practically newlyweds and had just retired. I'm still glad she was there during this time in her life. In the last few years, Mom was not the energetic, fit gal we always knew. She needed assistance to remain at home, and because of this, our family grew to include 4 of the most wonderful, kind, and amazing women who ensured she had a quality of life we could never have done without them. I want to acknowledge Mom's amazing and loving team of caregivers. I cannot imagine what our life would have been for our family without these gals. 2 of the 4 Superwoman team were not able to be here today. We've mentioned Amy Johannes and Tamrat Hadgu are not able to be with her. But I'm so happy that 2 of the other gals were able to come and be with us, and I'd like to introduce them, Rahel Kasai and Nardos Askudam. I apologize if thank you for standing up. They're here. They drove here from Washington with Nardos's husband and Rahel's brother, Kadani, and thank you for making the effort to come here. Our family will be forever grateful to you gals, and I love you as my sisters. You worked as a team and loved and cared for Carol like she was your family. Now you are part of our family. Thank you for all you did, and blessings to you and your family for the care and love that you shared. For my mom. Mom, we already miss you, but I know you're united and resting peacefully in Dad's arms now and for eternity. And you'll see Grandma Eva, Grandma Goddess, and Esther, and all of our ancestors that I know that you're there with. Thank you all for coming here and for being with us. Our family wants to invite you to Congregation Mishkan Or, which is on Shaker Boulevard, probably most of you know, after we go to the cemetery, which is where we're going to go now. I hope that you'll be able to come so we have an opportunity to share stories of Carol. And many of you know my mom was a skilled watercolor artist, and we brought some of her paintings and some family photos, which will bring her presence into the reception. So thank you again all for being here. Thank you, Cantor said. Thank you, of course.
Oh God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way. But you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort and the sorrow laden for consolation. Oh God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and glory. Please rise.
El male rochamim shochen bamromim hamitzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina im kidoshim uteorim kizorakia mazirim shalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Carol Ann Goddess, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated for just a moment.
I ask those who are pallbearers to step forward at his pledge. Okay, we'll just wait here for a moment. Over here. Interment will be at Mayfield Cemetery. We ask those who are going to that service, please return directly to your cars without your headlights and your hazard flashes. Thank you for coming. Exit to the rear of the chapel.
I've known him for a long time, since high school too. He's a great governor. Good looks, but I'm trying. Nice to see you, Robin. Nice to see you. Good. Nice to meet you. So this shows Shirley. Oh, wonderful.